basic shapes. So the time has finally come for us to actually start drawing. And one thing that it is very important, often overlooked, is that when drawing, it really helps for you to be able to mentally in your head to see an object, to see a space, and be able to break it down into big components and then smaller components. Similar as to perhaps you enter, let's say, a room, and you are able to just visualize that yourself are inside a square, a rectangle, or maybe if you go to the pyramids, you are inside a pyramid, right? So it's a very useful skill to have, to be able to visualize spaces as multiple basic shapes, basic objects. It really helps you. So for now, I will turn off the camera because I'm going to be drawing while talking. The whole idea is that, let's say the time has finally come and you want to be able to draw a character, a person, right? You want to be able to draw a character or a person. And I'm going to use my red pen. So I'm just doing the hair right now. Just gonna draw a character. It is starting to become warm here in Switzerland, but you still need to occasionally layer up just a bit. I'll try to make it quick so that I can go back to talking. But yeah, the whole drawing with talking part sometimes can be a bit hard to do. But in this case, just drawing a character, and let's say you want to get to this level where you're just drawing a character. Probably it is what you want to do if you enroll in this course. you want to, for example, draw a character like this. The important thing to burn into your brain is that a character like this, right? Character like this, which was drawn without a whole lot of consideration, just very quickly. It's that it can be broken down into simple elements. So let me put an arrow here. A character like this can be broken down into simple elements, and that will change the color of my pen. If we think about it, what is the head of a person? In a weird way, not a weird way, but it's just a rectangle, right? It's a rectangle. And for the neck, right, it's a tube, something like this. Then for the torso, it's a bit like a big rectangle, right? Same for the hips. Then for the arms, the shoulder is like a ball. Shoulders are essentially two balls. And then for the arms, they can be thought of as tubes connected by here another ball that does like this. And then for the hand, you have another small ball here. The joints, the joints are essentially balls. So joints equals balls. The arm is probably the most, the arm, no, not the hand, is probably the most complicated form because it's a bit like a pentagon. And then the fingers are just tubes. And the weird, and we're going to discuss this a bit, but the hardest part about the hand is that you do need to memorize a bit the size of each finger because each finger is different. But it does help if you think of it like as a pentagon in a way. But we can discuss the hand when we get to the end chapter. But yeah, let's continue breaking down the human body. Then you have, in this case, you do have, I drew the arm like this, so it's another tube. I would have the hands like this. Perfect. The cup here, right? The cup here. It's probably the simplest shape here, which is, it's a tube with a straw on it. So nothing crazy happening. The same thing for the legs. The femur joint, the legs, which are tubes. Then for the knee, it can be a ball, but just for the aiding yourself as well. Sometimes a triangle can be used just to, because the way the joint is made up. Then another ball, another tube, I mean. And then for the feet, just something like this, which is a rectangle but skewed. So when we break down a character like this, it's essentially just a mix of tubes and rectangles, balls for the joints, and then you alternate between rectangles whenever you need. So this is, for you to get here, you need to understand this part. And for you to understand this part, you need to memorize and you need to be proficient with the following shapes, right? You need to be proficient with drawing the basic shapes, which are the rectangle, the square, the rectangle, which is just an extension of the square, a triangle, so the pyramids, and the sphere or the ball, right? You need to be comfortable drawing these shapes confidently. And for example, in the case of the square, maybe at a different angle, something like this. Triangle as well. This is without a doubt the most basic of illustration, is being able to do these shapes and then also, let's say, squeeze them, extend them as needed. For the ball, it also becomes very useful if you are able to do ovals as well. Squeeze the ball, extend the rectangle, squeeze the triangle. These are the basic shapes. It's possible that if you are joining this course, you are already proficient enough in drawing these basic shapes. So do feel free to, and I probably should have said this in the beginning, but do feel free to skip this part if you are already proficient. But for this chapter, I just wanted for you to understand that everything are these basic shapes that then can be two things. They can be modified, right? Modified and bent. And bending is essentially they can be modified and they can be combined. By modified is, of course, what I just did here. I had a rectangle and I extended the rectangle, right? For another type of modification is the rectangle bending the rectangle, bending the triangle. The ball is being comfortable drawing ellipses. And in the case of these basic shapes, the square and the rectangle, it also becomes useful that you can do not just the square, but perhaps also the hexagon, the pentagon, adding sides to the rectangle, to the basic shape. Triangle, rectangle, pentagon, hexagon, those are probably the most useful one. And then when I say about combined, it should be obvious to you, right, what I mean by combine. If you think about it, what was probably the first thing that you drew as a kid? The very first thing that you drew as a kid probably was this, a combination of the triangle with the rectangle. And then if you put several squares inside, you have a house. This is the combination part, and it might look simple right now, but and that's what we're going to focus on the next chapters. As soon as you start adding three-dimensionality to it, that's when it starts to become more complicated. And now I have my house that exists in 3D. And this is the next chapter, the 3D part of it, right? But for now, especially if you're just beginning your road to drawing, my challenge for you, and that's going to be the first exercise, is to be able to draw the basic shapes confidently. What I mean by confidently is, and this is very important what I'm going to say, you want to be in a position where you can, and let me just grab another sheet. You want to be in a position where you can draw the rectangle or the square, right, confidently, avoiding chicken scratching. Avoid chicken scratching. You want to avoid this. You want to avoid this at all costs. What I mean by chicken scratching is doing this. You see, I'm not committing to my lines. This is chicken scratching. My lines are hairy. Chicken scratching can be used as a technique to give texture, but it's something that you use intentionally, not unintentionally. For example, you're doing cross-hatching. I mean, cross-hatching is not chicken scratching, but because cross-hatching still requires you to have control of your hand. Chicken scratching is when you are unable to commit to a line and you are very uncertain of drawing a full line. For sketches, you will see that many artists do employ some basic chicken scratching, but even then, the use of that is very purposeful, right? So you want to avoid chicken scratching. You want to get in a position where you can draw things confidently. All the shapes in clean strokes. These are the basics of illustration. These are the very basics of illustration that you need to master. And that's what we're going to focus on for the first exercise.